Welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the brand new Kunwu X-Padre. This is the newest version of the Padre. The previous version has a frame lock and it's a front flipper. This one is a non-front flipper and it has a crossbar lock. I absolutely love the first version of the Padre, so I was super stoked to find out that they came out with this crossbar lock version, and I'm still on the fence. I don't know which one I like more. Some days I like this one more because I'm not a big front flipper fan, so this one gets rid of that front flipper so you don't have anything sticking up right there. And just overall, whichever one you like, you're not gonna be able to go wrong here. To me, this is a perfect size EDC knife, but it's a big, chunkier knife. Coming in at 7.95 inches long with a 3.34 inch blade of L-Max steel. My particular one has a blasted stonewash finish along with blasted and stonewash tie. You can also get it with a satin blade, and I think you can also get it with non-texture as well, depending on which ones are still available. The L-Max on here is hardened properly to 60 to 62 HRC, right where you want to see it. And in my experience, all the knives I've tested for Kunwu, they have performed very, very well. You have somewhat of a thumb ramp right here with some really good jimping, a full forward finger choil, so anybody should be able to get their fingers up there because it goes down into the scales right here. If you have fat sausage fingers, it may be a little cramped for you, I'm not sure. You have a needle light point right there, great for piercing and doing drag cuts. And you have a fairly low tip, not to mention that edge sits below this choil area. So when you go to cut on a flat cutting surface, you're gonna be able to get about to right here down on the cutting board before your knuckles come in contact with it. So lots of cutting surface on the cutting board. So this is gonna be a very versatile blade shape, or it should be. That forward finger choil also doubles as a sharpening choil, and that plunge comes all the way back here. So you're gonna have tons of sharpening light before the heel will start to widen up on you. Got a nice little top swedge that also thins out that tip some. And then you have this one up here as well. Blade hole we'll talk about later. And just like on the previous Padre, you have a very wide blade with a tall flat grind, and it comes down nice and thin. You can look right here where my thumb is. You can see how thin it gets. So it's nice and thin. It should slice very, very well. Let's find out. The knife came with an outstanding edge out of box, and it is slicing so well. I'm sorry I had to speed it up to, I think, 5 times because the cardboard alone took me close to 30 minutes. We cut so much cardboard. We had a lot of cardboard to break down to put in the recycle bin here at the Airbnb, and my wife had it all in a box. So I literally sat there and cut up every bit of it, and it never felt like it was slowing down. It was kind of hard for me to hold on to the cardboard because my fingertips are very weak, and you can see me having to kind of rest it on my leg. And sometimes it might look like it's getting dangerous, but it's just because it's going so fast. I apologize. I know some people hate whenever it's sped up this fast, but it's the only way I could do it and not be an hour-long testing, because I had cardboard to cut up. And cardboard's probably the most abrasive stuff that I usually cut anyway, besides maybe the sisal rope. But being that I'm not at my house, I don't have my normal testing stuff. So we cut up a metric ton, and I'll show y'all at the end how much we cut up with just the X-Padre. And it never slowed down. I am in that choke up spot because if you choke back, you're going to get hung up in that choil area because you're just way too far from the edge. But this thin geometry and the outstanding edge that came on it is just amazing. I'm feeling the edge now, and of course, being that I'm shooting this voiceover, I'm completed it, and the edge still feels really good. So I kind of expected it because I had already tested the regular Padre frame lock version, and it's the one I have is also an L-Max, and it performed outstanding as well. So yeah. Definitely impressed, just like always. I mean, the Pulsar XL impressed me, and this one's even thinner in geometry, and it impressed me even more. Besides, like I said, besides my fatigue, my normal fatigue, and that has nothing to do with the knife, that's just me. I'm not in the best shape anymore, and my muscles are very weak ever since the accident because I can't do certain exercises, and it's just harder for me to do, so... But blazing through it, and y'all see the big old pile that we accumulated. And then toward the end, we're going to do the ergo testing with that same stick that I did on the last couple of reviews. And that's some hard stuff, I gotta admit. And then we also have another, creamer jug that we're gonna slice and dice. And like I said, this is the third creamer jug I've tested, and it wrecked a budget steel. So it's not the easiest on the edge, the harder plastics. But yeah, I'm mixing in some regular, we had a pretty nice sized box that I took out of the recycle bin that I decided to chop up as well. It was a medium sized box. And I don't know where this cardboard from, but it is some rough stuff. I think it's recycled cardboard, so it could have extra gunk in it. The only reason I say that is because I was cutting up some recycled cardboard not too long ago, and you could see like little dirt particles in there. But here's the big old pile, all done by the X-Padre, and I think it's rather impressive, especially being that it still has a good edge. And right here, you can kind of see that. This is a very hard wood. I don't know what it is. If anybody knows, you can let me know that down in the comments. But it's super dry. It had been sitting behind, or actually on side of the recycle bin. I'm guessing they meant to throw it in there and they didn't. But it looked like it had been sitting there for quite some time. It had no bark left to it. And it is a very hard piece of wood. But X-Padre is doing great. Super comfortable ergos for a flat scaled knife. And here's the last portion. Just, having fun. Just doing a little bit of tip work, giving that forward portion of the edge a little bit of a workout. Nothing major or anything. Definitely, if you ever do something like this, be very careful, because those boxes are very slippery. And like I said, this is sped up. This one's sped up 4 times. So it may look like I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing, but I am. And I'm doing it a lot slower than you expect, just because I don't want to slide off and gouge my hand. But yeah, the edge still feels great at this point. That tip is very, very pokey, and it went in through there like a hot knife through butter. And toward the bottom portion, that's some pretty thick stuff. You'll see me cutting around it. It wasn't the easiest to cut. Some of it I had to put a little bit more force into it than others. But yeah, I'll say I'm impressed. Once again, Kunwu does a great job. I have to admit, that one was very enjoyable to test, and it felt like it was going to keep going and going. If my hands wouldn't have been as tired as they were, I would have cut more than that, but I just couldn't hold on to the cardboard any longer. If you've ever done that for a long period of time, it starts to cramp up your wrist rather quickly, especially when I don't have any gloves on, because I'm still on vacation, so I don't have any gloves. Luckily, we'll be heading back home on Saturday, so back to the normal videos come Sunday. But now let's look at the deployment and action of this knife. So you have that thumb hole that you can either reverse flick, and it has a very well-tuned crossbar lock on here. And then I love the little pads they have on the crossbar lock. They're very comfortable. And as soon as you pull that back, this thing falls down with no problem. You can slow roll it rather easily. You could blade drop it. And of course, you can use the crossbar lock to deploy the knife if you wanted to. The knife is riding on ceramic bearings, giving it that glassy smooth action. And then when it locks up, it thwacks open. Now let's take a look at these beautiful handles. So I have the diamond textured tie scales. They are absolutely stunning. And on this one, they're blasted stone washed, so the peaks are knocked off. It's not too rough for my hands. And it also has a chamfer going all the way around to knock off any hard edges. Your hardware is Torx T8 for the pivot, T8 for the body screws and the clip screws. The only T6 that you have are for these little pads, but you should never have to take those off if you don't want to. You have a 3D milled titanium pocket clip that is reversible. It just goes right here. And I don't know if I think he might have lightened the tension on these, because they used to be very stiff. This one has the perfect amount of tension. It goes in and out of the pocket nicely. However, it is sitting on top of this texture, so over time it may become a pocket destroyer. I would have loved to see a flat spot underneath this pocket clip, but I do love the fact that he relieved some of the tension on this pocket clip, or at least it feels like it on this one. You have a small partial backspacer with a gear pattern that is raised a little bit above the scales. Might give you some grip. I don't really ever notice them. And not sure if y'all can see inside there. The glare's too bad for me out here, but There are inset stainless steel liners in there. They have been skeletonized, but that is going to add a little bit extra weight. And you have this pretty broad blade here and thick slabs of tie with all the tie here. So this one's coming in at 5.67 ounces. I really don't notice it in the pocket all that much, especially when I have my jeans on. And balance point is right here by that choil area. So nice and balanced. It feels light and nimble in the hand. So like I said, for me, the 5.67 ounces, I don't mind it all that much. The lockup on this knife, when I say bank vault, I cannot force any movement up or down, side to side. Super tight lockup, very well done on that axis lock. And like I said earlier, the little tabs have grips on them. As you can see, they kind of flare out. And this is probably some of the most comfortable crossbar lock that I've had to mess with. I'm not usually a huge crossbar lock fan, but this one is rather comfortable for me. It feels a little bit similar to the Spyderco Manix tabs, except these are a little bit more comfortable. The centering on, I can't really tell, but it looks like it's right down the pipe. And I meant to say earlier, they have an integrated lanyard loop into this titanium backspacer. Quick size comparison with the Quiet Carry Drift Large and the Volsteed Raccoon. It's a little bit bigger than both the Spyderco Manix 2 and the TRM Shadow. And as you can see, it's bigger than the CKF Evo 2.0 and it dwarfs the Kaiser Drop Bear. All right, now for my nitpicks and complaints. I don't really have much, and what I do have is pretty much nitpicks. I think it would have been awesome to have a flat spot underneath this pocket clip. That way it doesn't become a pocket destroyer over time. And I do think that they could have, instead of putting the stainless steel liners all the way to the back right here, I think it would have been better to just put a little plate that houses the crossbar lock like a lot of companies do. It would have lightened it up a little bit, but like I said, it's really just a nitpick because I have no issues carrying this whatsoever and I find it rather comfortable in the pocket. But I think for me, the biggest thing would be to have a flat spot underneath that pocket clip. I do like how the tension is dialed in now, and overall, this thing is a slicing machine. I love the overall aesthetics of it. The ergos on this knife, especially choked up, super locked in. And these are flat scales, they're not contoured, but the way this handle arcs down like this thing was very, very comfortable to use, and I was extremely locked in. I can choke back if I want, but if you do choke back, you can see how far you are from that edge. So if you needed some reach, that's fine, but I wouldn't do normal cutting back here just because you're gonna end up getting caught up in here unless you're really paying attention to what you're doing. The knife was super slicey. The edge held up outstanding, and this is the factory edge. Now, if you get the blasted finish, you can see, hopefully, the wear on here. Some of that might wipe off. It might just be polished a little bit, but that is usually the case with these blasted stonewash blades. If you plan on using them a good bit, they're going to start smudging it up. Sometimes they can take the color of whatever you're cutting. If you're cutting a red box, sometimes the red will get smushed in there. But they also have satin versions of this. They have textured, non-textured. They have DLC. You know, I don't know what's still available. And if you're not a crossbar lock fan, there's also frame lock version with a front flipper. Another one that I reviewed, I think it was this year, the Pulsar XL. Another one that I absolutely love. It's a toss-up between this one and the Pulsar XL. I carry them quite often, and they're both nice and slicey, very comfortable knives, great action. Kunwu brings you a lot for your money. With all this milling, the quality heat treat on the L-Max, you know, all the tie, and this thing comes in, this particular version comes in at $269. There are cheaper versions. Sometimes they have the G10 versions, stuff that are a good bit cheaper, but $269, I think that is an outstanding deal for the performance, the comfort, the action. All of it is an A+ for me. So, if any of y'all own the Padre or the X-Padre, let me know what you think about yours down in the comments. If you own any of the Kunwu knives, let me know what you think. Which ones are your favorite? I think the Pulsar and this one, like I said, are my favorite. The Chad sometimes is I go back and forth. I like a lot of them. I'll have a link down below if you're interested in this one or any of the other Kunwu knives. It will be an affiliate link, so if you want to help support what I do here on this channel, that is pretty much the only way to do so. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down below. I hope every one of y'all is having an absolute amazing day. Thank y'all for supporting me while I've been on vacation. I appreciate it more than y'all know, and I will see y'all on the next one.